All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to this week of Pentesters Chat. This week, we're going to be talking about next week, which is Vegas. There's three conferences. We have BSides Tuesday, Wednesday, Black Hat Wednesday, Thursday, and then DEFCON Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're going to talk about talks we're excited for, any sort of villages we want to see, networking events, and then we definitely have some Sprocket stuff to get to. I'll start off by introducing myself. I'm a senior staff security researcher at Sprocket Security. I work in the service delivery team and then also a little bit on the research side and some automation. And I'll popcorn it over to Nicholas. You can go next if you want.
Yeah. Hey there, everybody. Nicholas Anastasi, the Director of Technical Operations at Sprocket. Work to help keep the service delivery team organized, on track, help these guys out, and then also do quite a bit of testing myself and write a lot of goofy tools that I share in Slack once in a while. So I will popcorn it over to Nate.
Thanks, Nicholas. Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm one of those crazy cats that Nicholas is continually wrangling around as a penetration tester on the service delivery team. Been with Sprocket for about 3 years now. Spend most of my time doing web application testing, internal, external net pen, and all of the other things that a hacker enjoys doing. So with that, JP.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's JP or Juan Pablo. Another pen tester, a user of goofy tools that Nicholas writes. Been here for about 2.5 years, and same as Nate, a lot of external, internal pen tests. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Go ahead and get to talks, I think. I know we got sort of off to a ripping start there. Just in terms of like talks I'm excited for next week, Casey's giving a talk at the Startup City Theater. Casey's CEO for Sprocket, giving a talk at Black Hat Startup City Theater on compromises at scale. Wednesday at 1:15. I think that one should be pretty cool. Another one I had in my list, I know we already talked about this a little bit, but like Gareth Hayes' talk on the exploiting parsers to bypass access controls. I think it's going to be super cool. I think the idea is like exploiting the way that applications handle email input. Like I've definitely have fun bugs with that one before where you can like put sort of interesting like email input. It handles it a little bit differently. And like looking at the links he referenced, I feel like some bugs are going to fall out of that for like tests for sure. Um, and then yeah, all right. So I'll go with that one. I don't know. Did you guys read up on that one at all? Like
Yeah,
any, you
I'm
have any
I,
thoughts?
I know Gareth, if you're familiar with his work or any of his research, he does a lot of really cool CSS stuff. And on his primary site, I'm pretty sure, has written or has forked some crazy version of Doom or some Doom-esque like video browser-based game. And it's all in CSS. Like, WASD movement through doors, unloading, guns, but it's all done through CSS, which is just, insane. And so, like you're saying, Will, having the fact that he, mentions those as
Right.
related material for email parsing bugs is just, that's one of the talks that is just like, what in the world is this gonna bear? I'm super excited for that one for sure.
For sure. And what I love about Port Circuit too is they drop the labs like the day of. So like they'll drop the research, they do the labs. So like there's always like that CTF or like ability to explore the research that they put out as part of it. So like yeah, I'm pretty stoked on that.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe I'll kick it to you, or if anybody else has talks they want to talk about.
Yeah. Has anybody seen what James Kettle is doing this year at all for his talk at Portsmouth?
They can do web timing attacks, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seemed kind of similar to what he did last year, so I'm looking forward to seeing the difference. So he had those cool bugs on. Uh, it was like GitLab account takeover with timing attacks and stuff like that. So Might have just spent the whole year actually proving that out a bit more and coming up with some other cool stuff. I'm sure that room is going to be packed to the doors, though, I would imagine. So,
I'm sure he was dubbing on it because it looks like the title is called Web Timing Attacks That Actually Work.
okay.
So that's what he called it for Black Hat and DEF CON. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they also released there's if you searched like pretty much any other really popular web application vulnerabilities, Portswigger or some reference to Gareth or James's research is typically, top 90% of the results. Um, but if you look, specifically for web cache exploitation or denial of service, poisoning, those types of things, um, you still get 4 or 5 different results from Portswigger, but each one seems to incrementally make more sense and be more consistent with what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. Like,
Right. Yeah.
here's a practical guide to web cache exploitation or, how to actually exploit XYZ versus, the very beginnings of his nature, of the talks of his stuff. So,
It
um,
seems like they're so big brain, and then they have to like boil it down
yep.
for us, like, and just the
Yeah.
normal tester and
Yeah.
hunter and everything. So it's cool, but
So it's always
yeah,
cool seeing people build off their research throughout the year, and then they come back again and build on top of that. Like that's always exciting too.
yeah, not like
Real quick, Will, I think we got a question. I'm not sure we were answering these as we go or at the end.
Um, yeah, I'm not seeing one in the chat, JP.
I'll
I
read it up
can,
for you.
Okay.
As a first time attendee to Black Hat slash DEF CON, do you have any recommendations for things to check out outside of the talks, like any challenge areas or villages?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, JP, go. Let me hear it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, any of the villages will be your best start. Anything you're interested in. Last year, Will and I went, and we went to a couple different villages. The Recon Village is super cool. I know, Will, you're giving a talk there this year. I like the Password Village. You can sit down and they'll walk you through all the common attacks for password cracking. They'll give you a terminal and you can mess around with Hashcat and John. They'll give you a free shirt, and then you can watch everyone scrambling to crack hashes for that competition. Any village is going to have someone there who will give you like explain like I'm five introduction to what they're all about, get your hands-on experience, and probably some merchant stickers too. So it's super fun. Do you guys have any villages you specifically like?
I thought Car Hacking Village was super cool last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had a Tesla in there, and there were people hooked up to the Tesla, hacking it real time. So one thing I like about the villages is they're often hands-on. Like the Space Village had like didn't have like a satellite with like a spacesuit. It like
Yeah.
some crazy stuff in
The
there.
aerospace one, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think the Bug Bounty Village is gonna have a lot of stuff in it that's super interesting. Yeah, just the hands-on aspect for me for the villages for sure, and getting to talk to people that are into similar things, or even things that, like I don't know much about car hacking, so talking to the car hackers was like super cool.
Talking to the people there, I think, is the biggest thing. And the good thing about it is, it's a big building full of hackers, so very like-minded individuals. I think. Well, and I passed I think it was the voting hacking machine,
Oh,
like for hacking of voting, like voting booths. And there was just a voting booth in the middle, and there was a sign that said "Take what you want." And so we just started scrapping stuff and pulled out the soldering iron and just taking chips and stuff. And everyone's there to talk, and someone there was actually like explaining to us common vulnerabilities and like just why voting booth security matters. So just simply being next to other people at these villages, you'll find people who are passionate about this and they'll speak about what they like, and you get to learn a lot of cool new things.
Yeah. So I think probably a very safe, solid starting place would be, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy? What areas of infosec or security, any branch of from satellite to medical technology, chances are there's going to be at least an adjacent web talk or village or workshops where you can check out. So it really is a super open place. So
I would say I'm looking at the Recon Village stuff, and Will's going to be there. And then also, I know you guys went to the Bbot thing last year, and so I'm pretty pumped to meet those guys too, because they're just a really cool crew. They write some pretty cool tools. So thankfully, there's no overlap with the Will's stuff. It'll be nice to check that out. So um, the title of that is "Recursion is a Harsh Mistress." So I'm looking forward to seeing. I can imagine just given the complexity of that tool. So it'd be kind of cool. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that was kind of a sorry, Nicholas, go ahead, man.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I felt like that was a hack last year. Is the tools, the DEF CON tools demo section? Like they have this special section, and it's like in blocks of 1 hour, and one speaker would go 3 times in a row. So you could show up like 10, 15 minutes late and like see them demo their tool and then like get to meet them and talk about like tools. So like I definitely wrote down a couple for the DEF CON tool section. Like there's one from Gray Noise where they're talking about farming N days by collecting PCAPs in the wild like that's a pretty cool idea and like they're in the tools demo section so it's an easy chance to like go talk to them.
That'll
um
be that'll be really cool. And that I wanted to bring up something interesting that I always really enjoy, figuring out how people operate like this. I'm looking at another talk, right? And it's called Kicking in the Door to the Cloud, Exploiting Cloud Provider Vulnerabilities. But it's from presumably, obviously, super smart folks at Datadog. And Datadog is not a company that you would typically associate with really cool offensive security minded, um, basically doing what we do, right? Pen testing. And the same with like Gray Noise, right? They're not in the pen testing space, but they have super smart folks that, you twist and you mangle the data a little bit, and now all of a sudden it becomes useful for somebody like us where we can say, hey, here's Gray Noise analyzing PCAPs in the wild to find recently exploited ODays. Well, how can we use that? Like at Sprocket, and it's coming from a company that doesn't do pen testing. And so you kind of always find some different areas that, these organizations will output different than what you would typically get from a, bread and butter offensive security organization. So that's just to say, I'm super stoked on that too.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Just in that same vein, like if your organization uses, I guess, some unique product or something like that, there's chances that you can find somebody there that works for that company and probably run into them and talk a little bit. I'm crazy excited because this will be my first time at DEF CON ever, which is kind of wild with how long I've been doing this. But there's just people I followed for so long on the internet and read their stuff, like when I was coming up and learning, and really hoping I'll get to meet some of those guys because like they were very um, influential in like the stuff I got interested in, the blog articles I have in the bookmarks that I pull up every single time I have to do something, like those kind of developers and things like that. So pretty pumped on that front as well.
Sure. I
Yeah,
feel like you
yeah.
should touch
Nate,
on the
oh,
I was
go
gonna say
ahead,
touch
Will.
on the black hat side a little bit like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think for first time Black Hat attendees, like the business floor is pretty good. I know JP jump in too, like you were there last year, and I know you got other guys have gone too. First time attendees, I think the business floor is actually pretty handy because you can go talk to a lot of different companies and get a feel for it. The talks I feel like for Black Hat are very accessible, whereas DEF CON you might have giant lines you can't get into. Black Hat picking out talks, like you can almost always get into a talk. They're very accessible there. They usually allow you to meet the speaker afterwards. It's not like a mob scene for that. So that's super good. And then we could talk about networking events, I guess in a bit, but I don't know. Did anybody have anything else from Black Hat for first timers you'd think would be valuable?
I guess as a pen tester, it was cool being on the business floor, talking to all these different companies, talking to the people who work there, developers. I know we bothered the Tailscale people for a really long time last year, and I won't be a Black Hat, so I'm hoping to get someone from sales to do the same thing this year for me.
Right.
I guess the only other thing that I would really mention is the first time that I went, I was totally by myself alone. And that kind of made it a little bit overwhelming. obviously there's so much going on, and it can, just feel like you don't really have, I definitely went in without a game plan. So maybe, if it's possible, um, get a list of scheduled meetups, things beforehand, or maybe making a schedule, or having at least a rough outline of what you want to do. And possibly if you can do that with somebody else, that makes, approaching booths and different vendors and interacting with some of the live sort of demo-y things that you get like in the business hall. It just makes it a lot more approachable. Is what, if I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't go by myself. And if I had to, I'd come up with a little bit more of a game plan than just kind of going in willy-nilly.
Yeah, that's a great call. Like Arsenal's up there too, like in terms of like kind of meeting people.
Yep.
Like uh you, Hacker Tracker, which is yeah, I highly recommend for organizing. That has Black Hat too, right? Anybody who's downloaded it?
I
I think it
just
has like a
looked
lot
as
of security conferences. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead, Nicholas.
I just looked as Nate was kind of talking that through, creating a schedule. I didn't see it in there, but it'd be worth looking. Just for context for everybody here, it's iOS Android app that has like the full list of events and descriptions and everything on talks and villages and stuff at DEF CON at least. JP, you might be able to, somebody could look, see if Black Hat is supported. Otherwise, I'm sure there are some other apps to
I
help out there.
thought
So,
they, yeah, I thought they had it. They definitely have like B-sides. And so what's nice about the app is it has like a map of the venue. So like last year I had a map of Caesar. So this year it has, I had no idea it was built like that, but the convention center, like all the different floors, and it's really helpful. It should have Black Hat, but if it doesn't, I'm sure there's some other schedule like on the main site itself.
yeah.
Cool.
We had a question come through here. Where will you be located in the Black Hat Business Hall? Will, do you know offhand where we will be?
Yeah, we'll be in Startup City. So we have let me hold up real quick. We have a booth in Startup City. So we'll be available there. I'll drop a link in the chat too, because it has like the exact location, so you can just like really easily mark it off on the map. Highly recommend, like sort of Nate was saying, planning it out to figure out what you want to get to. I know at the booth we have a bunch of swag, so we have t-shirts. There it is.
Yeah.
Nice. The t-shirts are nice too. Like I legit wear mine all the time. So yeah, t-shirts, fidget spinners. I know there's a couple prizes to be won. And then also, is that the fidget spinner?
Yeah.
Nice.
I
Uh,
tried.
the link should have, there's a dinner Wednesday and Thursday to sign up for with Sprocket, and then also happy hour at the Cosmo Wednesday. So like a lot of opportunity to meet up with us at Black Hat. I think the booth should be really good. Like I said, Casey's speaking in Startup City as well. And then also we're doing Hacker Jeopardy at DEF CON. So we're there Friday and Saturday night. And again, we're giving out shirts, and the Hacker Jeopardy is a lot of fun. If you haven't been to it at DEF CON before, I would highly recommend it. It's at night after the conference is over. Really just fun atmosphere, good questions. Um, so yeah, I think that covers our representation a little bit. But yeah, to answer the original question, we're in the startup city. So.
Nice, nice. I'll say for Hacker Jeopardy, is it, you guys know if it's a secret what we're giving away for prizes, sponsoring it, or is that maybe I'll hold on to it just in case. I got them sitting on my
Yeah.
desk at work, so
Yeah, all
definitely
good,
bring them
all good.
along. But
So yeah,
yeah,
so how it'll work is just at Hacker Jeopardy, if someone on stage can't answer the question, then people in the audience are allowed to raise their hands and like push up their glasses and correct them. And if they get it right, they can get a type of prize. Depending on the question, sometimes they'll give away something a little bigger, something that might look like this, but we'll see.
awesome. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, these guys hyped up Hacker Jeopardy quite a bit when they got back last year, so I'm pretty pumped for that. That should be good. Does anybody have any other talks, I guess, to pivot back to DEF CON that they are interested in? JP, I know you had a couple if you wanted to share.
Yeah, sure. I had one specifically called Smishing Smackdown. It's by a guy named Sinner. We met him last year. Super cool guy. Um, They essentially got one of like the USPS tracking smishing texts, and they took matters into their own hands. And it's basically the talk is linked. They have a blog post about everything they did, but the talk sort of just to show everyone and tell everyone. They figured out where these like smishing kits were being hosted, and they found a way to get into them, reverse engineer how they work, and pull down all the data and report it for responsible disclosure. Send that to Troy Hunt for the Have I Been Pwned? And they found out that it was just some random person in China selling these kits for like $200 a month, and they ended up backdooring the kit themselves. So they just used the same thing to get access to it, or they pwned it somehow. I can't remember exactly, but I'm really excited. That talk's going to be super cool. Apparently, everything that was hashed in there was like he couldn't use Hashcat to crack it. Like he had to write something specific. What it ended up being after he reverse engineered it was the guy who wrote the dev kit was just adding his name to the end of every value and then MD-fying it 3 times in a row. So
I
super
think
dumb, super egotistical, but
it's such a twisted, unique sense of irony that it costs $200 to buy these kits to
yeah.
spam all of us, right? We've all gotten these texts, and I would happily pay more than $200 to never have one again. But you know, the market of economies just won't allow that to happen, right? It only is $200, and I'd pay triple that just to never get another one. And so,
That's
yeah,
that's a good idea. I like that. Just any threat actors listening, just know that
yeah,
that's an option. Uh,
seriously,
I'll say in the same vein as JP's talk when or that he mentioned just kind of this building an understanding of like offensive infrastructure that like the real bad guys are using. There's another talk that I'm pretty pumped for called Atomic Honeypot, a MySQL honeypot that drops shells. I think they stood a honeypot up on the internet, and then there was a vulnerability where you could get a reverse shell or get access to the actual machine that's scanning for a vulnerability in MySQL. So all of these attackers that were scanning the entire internet for like MySQL instances, they were just popping the boxes of those guys that were scanning and then collecting recount on them and stuff like that. So you guys know I like honeypot stuff. So from HTTP pot, but that one's really cool because like I love the talks or the articles that like tear apart like real world offensive infrastructure that's out there. I always think that's so interesting, like how they operate and everything. And it's never as complicated as you think it's going to be, but it's still pretty neat because yeah, they're operating at quite a scale. Those guys that are scanning that widely. So yeah.
Real quick, just to touch back about the talk I was mentioning, they have a blog post about the whole thing, and like I 100% agree with you. He said when they were like looking into the admin panels for these submission kits, they were all like 5, 6 character passwords. It was like people who like had never worked in IT were operating this, and like the technical level was just very low. I guess if you can just pay $200 to have all the hard work done for you, then yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, that'll be cool. Any talk like that.
Nate, anything that stood out to you?
Nothing. I mean, a lot really stood out to me, but and we can come back to that. But I did have a slightly less technical question, really for Will and JP. Years ago, when I went out to Black Hat and DEF CON, I noticed that there was a lot of organizations and companies and products and technology that were centered around at the time was like active deception, right? Using technologies sort of like honeypots, like some of the work that Nicholas has done with his fingerprinting, the fingerprinters, and watching the watchers and all of that. But I was curious, like, did you guys see any of that the last year when you were out there? I'm drawing a blank on the primary, a few of the leaders in the space just from a few years ago, and I feel like we don't really hear a whole lot of that type of technology anymore. I know, for the more technical folks, Black Hills Information, they used to have a whole VM called ADHD, which was Active Harbinger um, hardware distribution, which was like a virtual machine that had a whole bunch of preloaded tools on it that were completely designed to do this active deception, where it would basically trick the attacker, not just with a honeypot, but a fully interactive fake Active Directory environment and things that you could really do to fully convince a real threat actor that, they were cracking password hashes when in fact they weren't at all and they were just wasting their time. But that was seemed to be really popular a few years ago, and they didn't really have. I really don't hear much of that anymore, and I was just curious if you guys had seen anything like that out there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that. Like, I feel like it was popular a few years ago. I haven't seen a lot
Yeah,
of active deception stuff. I always like the idea,
me too.
like
Yeah,
especially like for like web scanners where it would fill up the like by returning so much data during a scan, it would essentially break the scanner's tool. Like those ideas like that, I think are, yeah. I mean, it has a place and it's clever, but I don't on the business floor. Yeah, I don't think I saw too many like that. Or I haven't heard about in a bit.
yeah.
Well,
It did
JP.
that popped into my head when Nicholas was talking about, that type of, honeypot-ish type of systems and technologies, and then I was like, wait a minute, that you there used to be some big market players in that space, and don't really see that so much. So maybe it's worth checking out Gartner report and active deception technologies to see if where that's at. I mean, because it could be done. I don't know.
I think I wrote a paper about that in college and had you guys like look at it in the company Slack back then. It was like just talking about a white paper that was like discussing it. But yeah, no, I didn't see any
Yeah,
of that at last DEFCON. So
I feel
Awesome,
like
guys. Oh, go ahead,
I
Will.
was gonna say one interesting trend for this year that I'm kind of like excited for is like the like last year AI was like I mean really LLMs and like ChatGPT was very early on, and now there's like a year of people having tried out different techniques, different tactics using LLM. Like there's so many talks about using LLMs in different ways, things that work, things that failed. That's going to be a super interesting
yeah,
theme to see how people are using it, how we can take that home, like automate parts of processes. I feel like that's definitely going to be there.
Yeah, definitely.
for
It's
sure.
there's like there's so many projects to keep up with too, like out there already. So seeing like fully fledged talks and tools and stuff like that with real world applications will be pretty sweet. Definitely. Uh, Regardless, I think we're coming to an end here, guys. We got about 30 seconds to a minute left. So, did anybody have any closing thoughts or anything? I know we're all really excited to see everybody there. Should be a really fun time, and come talk to us at in the startup village. Get some swag at least. You'll be able to spot us. They'll all have bright red shirts on, and we got a cool banner and everything. So be really really fun. And then DEF CON Hacker Jeopardy is going to be the best way to kind of get run into us no matter what. So if you want to chat, please feel free to stop by. It should be fun. So
Yeah, please come say hi.
Yeah, in the chat I dropped the sign up links, so you can definitely sign up for us there. So just make sure you have that. I'm going to be speaking to. I know we didn't even go to. I'm speaking at BSides Tuesday 3:30 p.m. and then Recon Village Friday at 12. Like all about who is and some cool stuff we've done with who is and scanning at scale and doing continuous testing. So that's what I had for next week.
Will's work is awesome. So please go see it. At least one of them. It's crazy and it really fits into what we're doing here at Sprocket. So I'm really excited for that. It's pretty sweet. So
Cool.
okie doke. Sounds good. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate your time and hope everybody has a good rest of their Friday here.
Sounds good. All right.